Part 67. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 661. There is no doubt that Zhu Feng's magic skills must have been obtained from Mo11 on the Fire Spirit Pearl Island. Devouring magic skills, relying on devouring other people's vitality to practice, is obviously the demon-devouring sect. At this time, Zhu Feng must be in the Peeper realm, so will it be? What if he joins the demon-devouring sect? If so, I am afraid that the development of things will be to the extent that he dare not imagine. The war is about to start, and countless people will die. And the Yuanying is dispatched. If one person is devoured by Zhu Yun, it will be a very terrifying improvement in his strength. With the casualties in the Yuanying stage, he has no doubt that the Jindan stage will join in the end, and then the foundation building stage, and even Qi refining stage. This unpredictable consequence made Zhu Yun's breathing stagnate. If it reaches this level, will the immortal path of the human race be ruined? It is not difficult to cultivate immortals, but it is not simple to say it. The key lies in that sentence. The master leads the way, and the practice depends on the individual. In the whole world, cultivators who can cultivate successfully by themselves are probably rare. Even Zhu Yun, it was Sun Suanhua who took him to the immortal path, and then everything depended on his own exploration. Without Sun Suanhua, Zhu Yun would be at most at chores, and it would be impossible for him to achieve his current achievements. At most, he might be stronger than an ordinary chores with the help of the Dao glass mirror. His talent is not strong, the key is that Zhu Yun can use his brain. And the most important thing is that the Dao glass mirror and the 5 elements Chaos Sutra complement each other. The most lacking time is not a problem at all with the time flow rate difference of the Dao glass mirror. In addition, Zhu Yun constantly practices outside and has experienced countless life and death, so his strength is naturally advancing by leaps and bounds. With more experience and more fights, the word enlightenment in the cultivation of immortals will become relatively easier. Broaden your horizons and have more ideas. The more you think about it, the more hairy Zhu Yun becomes. Could it be that he couldn't escape the conflict between Peeper Realm and Yusha Realm after all? Originally, he thought that it had nothing to do with him and he would just stay out of it. In fact, after knowing that there was no demon sect stationed in Yunzhou, he was relieved for Lingjian sect. With his current understanding of Lingjian sect, he knew that Yunzhou, at least the southern part of Yunzhou, would not be in trouble. Then the elders and villagers of Huangshi Mountain did not need to worry, and let them live, grow old, get sick and die, each accepting their fate and following the cycle of reincarnation. But once the Yuanying of the two realms clashed, the consequences would be disastrous, and mortals would definitely be involved in the end. Not to mention Zhu Feng. Even if they were evenly matched in the end and the two sides stopped fighting, who knew whether Dongsheng realm on the other side would take the opportunity to attack? It is said that those who are not of my race must have different hearts. Dongsheng realm also has a demon king comparable to the Yuanying ancestor. Thinking of the demon refining tower in Zhu Feng's hand. And, those demon beasts living in Peeper realm and Yao realm, could these be deliberately arranged by Dongsheng realm? Zhu Yun was so confused that he couldn't figure out the key. The only thing he could decide was whether to join in. But it would be difficult for him to solve the chaos in the entire mortal world by himself. I hope I am worrying too much. Zhu Yun sighed and threw all his thoughts behind his head. He planned to ask Tang Liwen after returning to Lingjian sect. The authorities were confused, maybe Tang Liwen could show him a clear way. But he didn't know that Lingjian sect was already in chaos at this time. Led by Huo Maoang, all the Jindan stage people from Hualong sect who were sent to Yunzhou were besieging Lingjian sect. Coincidentally, Tang Liwen was in seclusion, helping Dagu refine the elixir to renew his arm. Her alchemy skills were only average, because she was so focused that she had no idea what was happening in the outside world. It was also because she helped the Lingjian sect to set up a mountain protection formation when Ergu went out to look for materials. At this time, Zhou was barely controlling the mountain protection formation to resist the crazy attacks of more than 10 Jindan stage outsiders. At the mountain gate, Ye held a sword in his hand and stared at the outside. Apart from Tang Liwen, he was the strongest here. On his left was Ergu holding the strange knife. Although Ergu was only in the foundation building stage, the knife in his hand gave him endless courage. When he was in the chi refining stage, Ergu killed several foundation building stages with this knife. Then he was in the foundation building stage, and maybe he could find an opportunity to kill the Jindan when the formation was broken. In fact, this was his fantasy. But no one in the entire Lingjian sect could stand up. On Yezi's right was the one-armed big dog. He also held a sword in his hand, his face full of solemnity. I don't know whether the formation will break first or Tang Liwen will wake up first. If the formation breaks, they will die, and if Tang Liwen wakes up, they will live. Huo Maoang felt something was wrong. He had been to the valley before, and he had also walked through the Dozhuan Xinyi formation. The mountain protection formation of the Lingjian sect was actually a simplified Dozhuan Xinyi formation. When Tang Liwen set it up, her purpose was to make it easy for these young cultivators of the Lingjian sect to control it. Huo Maoang didn't understand the formation, but the formation pattern flashed from time to time, making him feel familiar. In addition, he had been unable to capture it for a long time, and he had besieged this place for several days, so he couldn't help but want to retreat. He didn't know Yunzhou, and this time he came here just to find some cultivators to supplement the Hualong sect, so there was no need to waste time. Back off! Huo Maoang suddenly said. Someone was immediately dissatisfied and said, Senior Brother Maoang, if you retreat now, wouldn't all your previous efforts be wasted? If you don't retreat, then how can you know when we can break through? Although Yunzhou has poor spiritual power, there are probably other sects. As long as you are a monk and bring him back to the Fire Dragon sect, we will be rewarded. If you stay here, then you stay. After that, he looked around and said, I wonder if anyone is willing to stay. Anyway, I'm going to go look elsewhere. He still had some thoughts, otherwise he wouldn't have reached a deal with Huo Qinjue at that time. But he didn't expect that the Fire Dragon would eventually die in Zhu Yun's hands. This was something he had never expected. Of course, even now he doesn't know that Zhu Yun is a fake Hu Qinjue. That's right, I've had enough. After so many days of siege, if it were any other sect, I'm afraid I would have arrested hundreds of people, and this is tens of thousands of spiritual stones. I don't want to stay anymore. I want to burn you. We won't accompany you anymore. I am willing to follow Senior Brother Maoang. For a moment, the people here were divided into two groups. Someone quickly stopped and stood beside Huo Maoang. Humph! One of the people from the other faction snorted coldly and said, Are you afraid of the sword cultivator in the elixir formation stage? Although the sword cultivator is powerful, we have more people than him. Just one person. Whatever you think. Huo Maoang waved his hand indifferently and left without any hesitation. Soon, 4 people followed Huo Maoang and flew into the air. These people were all thinking too much. They knew that Huo Maoang, who was originally a disciple of the Foreign Affairs Hall, suddenly became the leader. They would not believe it if he said that he had no connection in the Fire Dragon sect. Otherwise, why not choose the late-stage pill formation that you just objected to? As Huo Maoang and others left, there were only 8 people left outside the Lingjian sect. The firepower that burned the formation also weakened a bit, which made Ye and the other 2 people relax a little. It seems that this can last a little longer and wait until Tang Liwen wakes up. Ergu turned to look at Zhou Yu and shouted, Little sister, how long can you last? Zhou Yu was sweating profusely at this time. It was still difficult to control this formation at the foundation stage. If Tang Liwen hadn't set up this formation and specially built a formation disc, the Lingjian sect might not have been able to last even an hour. But despite this, Zhou Ruyu was somewhat exhausted at this time. Unable to open her mouth to speak, she could only nod her head 3 times with difficulty. 3 days. Ergu took a deep breath and looked at each other with a look of determination in his eyes. If Tang Liwen still wakes up after 3 days, they will have no choice but to fight to the death. It doesn't matter, there are only 8 pill formation stages at this time, I can kill at least 4. Yezhi said calmly. It's not that he's arrogant. But as a sword cultivator, he has never been afraid of strong enemies. In particular, he brought many children from the Juhao Mountains. He didn't want to let these children die in front of him. If someone really dies, let me die first. Finally. 3 days passed. The array disc in Zhou Ruyu's hand suddenly exploded. The mountain array suddenly dispersed. The 8 flames lost their resistance and suddenly rushed towards the 3 people at the mountain gate. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 662. You retreat first. Yezhi's pupils shrank, and he suddenly swung the long sword in his hand. The sword tip quickly brought up the sword energy and blasted straight at the 8 flames. Yezhi's strength is worthy of the word sword cultivator. The 8 flames were cut in half by the sword energy, and when they rushed to the mountain gate, they had lost their lethality, and the fire power also dissipated. The 8 fire dragon sect cultivators did not feel surprised, but they did not care. Because there were 8 of them, and there was only one Yezhi. This kid is difficult to deal with. Even if he is caught, he is still a thorn. Kill him first. The leading cultivator waved his hand, and the other 7 people slapped Yezhi in the air. The endless fire power condensed again and blasted towards Yezhi. Yezhi frowned. When these people concentrated their strength to deal with him, he would be seriously injured in this round even if he did not die. The disadvantage in numbers is completely inevitable for him. Brother yet. Big Dog and Second Dog shouted in unison. They were outside the battle, but they could feel the purgatory-like momentum at this moment. You retreat first. It's better to retreat to Senior Tang's side. Yezhi's eyes were red, and he roared without looking back. At the same time, he stopped attacking, but desperately danced with sword techniques, trying to buy some time for Big Dog and Second Dog to escape. No, we won't leave. Big Dog said in a deep voice, holding the sword in his left hand, and suddenly stepped forward with sword steps. You are just in the foundation building stage, and you are still a cripple. You dare to come up and die. The leading cultivator showed disdain. He did not attack Yezhi, but swept the formation on the side. When he saw Big Dog coming, he slammed it with a palm. Before coming to Yunzhou, the Fire Dragon sect said that they would pay according to the head. If you beat it to death, it would be equivalent to losing spirit stones. Therefore, this cultivator only wanted to beat Big Dog to the ground, but did not use his full strength. In other words, he didn't use much spiritual power at all, and just wanted to use the pressure of the realm to control the Big Dog. But he never expected that a strange red light suddenly appeared behind the burly Big Dog. It was Ergu. The monk was a little surprised, but he didn't take it seriously, and just increased his spiritual power a little. But what happened next was once again beyond his expectations. This dark red knife originally belonged to Menguia, and it was originally a magic weapon of the spiritual weapon level. The red light flashed, like a flying boat riding the wind and waves in a storm, under the control of Ergu. It quickly rushed towards the monk. Not good. Ergu practiced the skills of the Yaloo sect, and his body movements were strange and light, almost like the true teachings of Menguia. In the blink of an eye, his figure had rushed in front of the monk. The monk was in a period of new strength and the old strength had not yet gone, and he was careless. He wanted to react again, but it was too late. He could only watch as Ergu's knife pierced into his lower abdomen with a puff sound. Ah! The severe pain came, and the spiritual power in the golden elixir, like a deflated ball, quickly rushed into the knife. Ergu, well done. Yezhi, who was dancing wildly with the sword, couldn't help but turn back and praise, but because of this, one of the monks found the right opportunity and slapped him away. Die, die. And the leading monk, in shock and anger, also slapped Ergu's chest with a palm. Ergu. The big dog was struggling to resist the previous pressure. Seeing Ergu flying backwards with blood spurting, he also roared, and the power in his body that he didn't know where, actually made him stand up. Brother. Not far away, Joruyu, who had already exhausted his spiritual power, burst into tears and screamed heartbreakingly. Everyone knows that when a foundation building stage faces a desperate attack from a core forming stage, he will definitely die. The gap in realm, this is the gap set by the heaven. As strong as Zuyun, if he is hit by a powerful palm from the nascent soul stage, he will also end up like this. Take advantage of his illness to kill him. When Yezhi flew backwards, he made the decision immediately. At this time, he was not thinking about helping Ergo to avenge, but thinking that if he could kill one more, he would kill one more. He didn't care that there was still a blazing flame on his body. When he landed, his legs were slightly bent, and after accumulating strength, he suddenly shot out. Like a spiritual fire that took the form of a human, he rushed towards the leading monk with a sword in his hand. The wind blew the fire and it rustled. The face under the burning flames was hideous and terrifying. At this time, he only wanted to kill the leading monk, and it would be a sure win. Die! Yezhi roared and stabbed the sword into the heart of the leading monk, and the long sword passed through his chest. The damage to the golden elixir caused his spiritual power to dissipate, and he was unable to protect his heart veins. This sword immediately made him feel cold. Yezhi quickly drew his sword, and with determination, he attacked the other 7 people again. He aimed at the nearest cultivator, and attacked him with his sword, fighting for his life. The flames on his body seemed to have no effect on him at all. But in fact, Yezhi was very clear. These flames were clearly burning his vitality. The longer they burned, the faster he would die. Now he can still hold on, but he doesn't know how long he can hold on. In his mind, the children he brought out from the Juhao Mountains kept appearing. Even if I die, I must die first. Yezhi kept repeating this sentence in his heart, so that his consciousness would dissipate more slowly. In this way, he can buy more time and let these kids live longer. Born in the 7 Stars sect, stronger than the 10,000 Swords Mountain, but died in the Spirit Sword sect in the end. My life, hundreds of years, can be considered vigorous. But Dad, do you know that I chased you all the way back then, in fact, to protect you? Yezhi's madness made the remaining 7 people dare not face it head on. They all practiced magic, and if they were close, 10 of them would not be Yezhi's opponent. What's more, this desperate fighting style made them miserable, and they could only fight and retreat. No one wanted to be a sacrifice. One death was enough. And as long as they hold on, when the time is up, Yezhi himself will die. So, no one wants to fall under Yezhi's sword at this juncture. Invisibly, this bought some time for Dago and Ergo, or in other words, for the Spirit Sword sect. Dago and Joruyu crawled towards Ergo at the same time. Unexpectedly, the entrance to the mountain gate was filled with Lingjian sect monks. The leader was the deputy sect master, Yu Yulin. Everyone had tears in their eyes. In fact, they all saw the previous scene, but before that, they all hid behind the house. The sect master and several elders fought for the survival of the section Yu. Yu Yulin choked up and couldn't say the rest of the words. Someone shouted in the crowd, "Deputy sect master, we are not afraid of death." That's right, Senior brother you, if I was afraid of death, I would have left the sect that year. When Master brought us out of the Juhao mountain, it was a great favor. Daddy often said that gratitude should be repaid, and hatred, revenge. Our Lingjian sect is invincible. Whether it was the original batch of Lingjian sect disciples, or the disciples who were later recruited from Yunzhou, or the children brought by Yezhi from the mountains. Everyone's tone was surprisingly consistent. They are not afraid of death. Because Yezhi and the other 4 people let them see with their own eyes that they were willing to fight to the death to protect the sect. Being there in person, they knew the true cruelty of the world of immortal cultivation, but also felt the true warmth of human kindness. In that case, everyone, bring your sword. Yu Yulin pulled out his own life-defining magic sword from his waist and pointed it forward in the void. The rest of the people, regardless of age or realm, whether in the foundation building stage or the chi refining stage, all made the same move. Form a sword formation. With Yu Yulin's order, everyone took sword steps and moved. Spirit Sword Sect, charge. Yu Yulin swung his long sword down and rushed straight towards Yezhi. Behind him, all the cultivators followed. It was the moment of life and death for the Spirit Sword Sect. At this time, a long sigh came from the air. If I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, I would never have believed that the Spirit Sword Sect would actually do this. Immediately afterwards, a talisman light fell from the sky in front of Yu Yulin. Boom! A muffled sound came from the Spirit Sword Mountain, and then a wall of earth rose up, blocking the entire sword formation. Immediately afterwards, countless talisman lights flew out again. The talisman light turned into fire, and the fire turned into a phoenix. The sky was full of fire phoenix talismans, all bombarded into the battle over there. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 663. The 7 people from the Fire Dragon sect did not dare to face Yezhi's sword head-on, and they all retreated frantically. Unexpectedly, the flames in the sky completely cut off their retreat. This is the Fire Phoenix Talisman. A cultivator with a broad vision looked at the fire phoenixes in the sky and screamed in horror. A Fire Phoenix Talisman is equivalent to a blow from the Jindan stage. And these fire phoenixes in the sky are equivalent to countless Jindan stages attacking them. Now, the 7 cultivators are all panicked. There is Yezhi in front and the fire phoenix behind. Where can they escape? Even though they are all fire cultivators, the Fire Dragon sect focuses on cultivating pills and making tools. In the real life and death battle, their experience is far less than that of cultivators from other sects. Even if they are at the same level, they will not be the opponent of the Ya realm cultivators. Boom! 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 The fire phoenix fell and hit all these cultivators. But the magical thing is that Yezhi in the battle did not suffer any damage. The huge vibration and explosion also made Yezhi's mind suddenly clear. A vague and familiar figure emerged, and before he could see clearly, another blue light rushed towards him. If you want to enter the Spirit Sword sect, you must pass this level of Yezhi first. Feeling the huge breath of water spirit power, Yezhi roared and stabbed a sword. Unexpectedly, the blue light quickly engulfed Yezhi. An extremely comfortable coolness quickly passed through his body, and all the flames on his body were extinguished. But this made Yezhi feel a little uncomfortable, as if he fell into an ice cellar. His body shook a few times, and he closed his eyes directly, lost consciousness and fell to the ground. Under the fusion of water and fire, it was full of mist. At this time, the figure fell into it, stood quietly in front of Yezhi for a long time, and then sighed. Fool! Looking up again, the 7 Fire Dragon sect monks were blown to pieces by the Fire Phoenix Talisman. When the talisman forms a certain scale, the lethality is also very considerable. Tap, 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 tap. Hearing the footsteps behind him, he turned his head and glanced around. All of them were unfamiliar faces, and no one he knew. "Thank you for your help, Senior. Can you please tell me your name so that we can remember it?" Yu Yulin's realm is not high, but he knows how to behave, otherwise he would not have a place in the dirty and chaotic Lingjian sect. "You are, Yu Yulin." Through the mist, the figure recognized Yu Yulin. "Senior is." Yu Yulin raised his head suddenly, but in the mist, he could not see the face clearly except the outline of the figure. The figure obviously knew this, but laughed, waved his hand, and dispersed the mist. "Seventh uncle." Yu Yulin shuddered all over and screamed. "It's really a long-lost name." Sun Suanhua laughed and said, "I didn't expect that what Sun Qiniang said was true. The appearance of Lingjian sect is completely different. I have actually watched it for a long time, and the bad qualities of Lingjian sect are all gone. This is a real sect." Sun Suanhua kept nodding, but there was one thing he didn't tell the truth. In fact, he had been observing Yezhi. It's just that Yezhi was unconscious at this time, so he had to give some face, so he naturally wouldn't talk about Yezhi. "Seventh Master, have you seen the former sect master?" Yu Yulin hurriedly got up from the ground and said respectfully. Back then, Yu Yulin was a disciple in the Futang who was responsible for distributing and collecting talismans. He had seen Sun Suanhua many times, and the two naturally had a lot of dealings. "Yes, of course I saw it. He also told me that the Lingjian sect was a little different, so I came back to take a look. I didn't expect to encounter such a critical moment." Sun Suanhua nodded, then took out a few pills and threw them over, saying, "Give them to the three people. Tell me what's going on here." Yu Yulin quickly called a few disciples and told them to deal with it. He told Sun Suanhua the whole story. Gradually, Sun Suanhua's brows frowned. "You said, there is another Yuanying stage in the sect? In addition, there are 5 more Jindan cultivators who came out of nowhere." "Yes, seventh uncle, a total of 13 people. They bombarded the mountain protection formation for several days, and they couldn't take it down for a long time, so they had an internal conflict, and 5 people left for some reason. And these 8 people were just destroying the formation before." As he said, he looked at Zhou, who had just been helped up and was dying. In her hand, she was still holding a broken formation plate. "This time, if Yezhi hadn't fought to the death, I wouldn't have found the opportunity." Sun Suanhua pondered for a moment and said, "I'd better help repair the mountain protection formation and the formation plate first. No one knows when the 5 people will return." "Great, Uncle 7, you are a man who knows 7 skills." Yu Yulin was overjoyed, and ran over to take the formation plate from Zhou and handed it to Sun Suanhua. "Huh? This formation?" Through the formation plate, you can fully see the layout of the mountain protection formation. Tang Liwen's Dozhuan Xinyi formation, although only a simple version, but the mystery in it made Sun Suanhua's eyes light up. After leaving the 10,000 mountains, Sun Suanhua walked along the way. When he met some lone monsters, he hunted them. When he met spiritual medicine, he picked it. In addition, he had no distractions. He didn't expect that after walking out of the mountains, he actually broke through to the Jindan stage. In his ecstasy, he still kept calm. He didn't know what happened in Yejing, so he studied the Fire Phoenix talisman and drew a lot of it for self-defense. Unexpectedly, along the way, Yejing had changed a lot and he didn't encounter any danger at all. This gave him the opportunity to sneak attack after he arrived at Lingjian sect. Otherwise, with his current early stage of Jindan, even if there were 2 more Yezhi, he wouldn't be able to kill the 7 cultivators who were at least in the middle stage of Jindan so cleanly. And in front of him, this mysterious formation opened his eyes. 7th uncle, this formation was set up by the predecessor in the Yuanying stage. According to that predecessor, she had an agreement with senior brother Zuyun to come here to treat senior brother Meng's hand. Sun Suanhua was delighted, thinking that Zuyun was doing well. He could even order the Yuanying stage. I was right back then. He is really a talent. But looking at Yu Yulin's appearance, it is obvious that he doesn't know much. If you really want to find out about Zuyun, you can only wait until the Yuanying is in seclusion. For now, let's study this formation first. If it doesn't work, you can only temporarily set up a 9 transformations 9 suns formation. Sun Suanhua called Yu Yulin and asked him to take Yezi and others away first, while he held the formation plate and guarded the mountain gate. After thinking for a moment, he decided to set up the 9 transformations 9 suns formation outside first. If the other 5 people come back, I'm afraid he won't be able to deal with it without the formation. Just when Sun Suanhua had just set up the formation, Tang Liwen suddenly retracted her mind in the cave on the top of the barren mountain. She waved her white hand, and a dilapidated alchemy furnace in front of her flew up, and a black pill flew out of it, emitting a foul smell. Although Tang Liwen couldn't see anything with her eyes, she revealed a touch of spirit. But just as she took the pill into her hand, she was shocked and turned to the side and said, "Xiao Qi, there is a change in the spirit sword sect, you lead the way." Squeak. In the corner, Qiu Qi shouted and ran out of the cave, and Tang Liwen removed the formation with one hand. She was refining pills for the big dog here, and in order to prevent it from being disturbed, she set up the formation. As soon as the formation was removed, a bloody smell came. Something happened. Tang Liwen stretched out her hand and hugged Qiu Qi in her arms, whispering, "Xiao Qi, lead the way, there should be something wrong at the mountain gate." Squeak. Qiu Qi waved his short forelimbs to point the way, and soon, a man and a fox appeared at the mountain gate. 9 turn 9 yang formation. Tang Liwen just appeared, but recognized the formation, and couldn't help but feel happy, thinking that Zuyun was back. But Qiu Qi suddenly shrank into Tang Liwen's arms. Not Zuyun. Tang Liwen also immediately felt Sun Suanhua's breath, which was very unfamiliar. "Did you kill someone here?" she said coldly to Sun Suanhua with a solemn face. And Sun Suanhua, feeling the surging momentum of the nascent soul, suddenly trembled and shouted repeatedly, "Senior, please don't misunderstand, I am Master Zuyun." "Zuyun's master?" Tang Liwen was slightly stunned and said, "Are you from the 7 Stars sect?" She remembered that Zuyun had said this. "Senior knows where I came from, it must be what Zuyun said." "That's right, I am the leader of the 7 Stars sect this generation. It's a pity that the 7 Stars section was completely destroyed in Wanjian Mountain." Sun Suanhua lowered his head and sighed, but did not dare to let down his guard. "I have a connection with the 7 Stars sect and an agreement with Zuyun. Since you are Zuyun's master, what happened here, you quickly tell me." "I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills." Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 664. Sun Suanhua did not dare to neglect and recounted what happened previously. Tang Liwen frowned more and more as she listened. How could there be so many alchemy periods in Yunzhou? You said, they are all monks who use fire spells? And, they all possess spiritual fire. Disciples of the Fire Dragon sect, as long as they reach the elixir formation stage, they will have at least one spiritual fire in their body. If they have a higher status or are more lucky, it is not surprising to have earth fire. That's right, senior, I don't know where these monks come from. If the junior arrives a little late, I'm afraid the Lingjian sect will be slaughtered. However, I heard from the previous people that there are still 5 people in the Danjing stage who left early. I don't know where they went. I am afraid that they may return at any time, so I want to set up a formation here to prevent any changes. Tang Liwen nodded slightly and said, I heard Zuyun say that you created this 9 turns and 9 suns formation. Exactly, a few rudimentary skills are nothing in front of the seniors. The formations of the seniors are boundless and mysterious, and the juniors cannot repair them. That's why I want to rely on the 9 turns and 9 suns formation for some protection. Tang Liwen said, you don't need to belittle yourself. Zuyun and I have discussed this place. It's mysterious and mysterious. It seems that you have a lot of attainments in the formation. We are all our own people. There is no need to be polite. This formation is mine. Come and fix it, and you can do some errands for me. After saying that, she threw out the newly refined elixir. Sun Suanhua quickly took it, smelled the medicine subconsciously, and said in surprise, regeneration pills for broken limbs. You. Tang Liwen originally wanted to say that you are quite knowledgeable, but as she spoke, she remembered that it was not surprising for people from the Kixing sect to be able to make elixirs. She couldn't help but smile and said, that's right, it was Zuyun who asked me to heal the big dog. You know a big dog? Of course I recognize it. Meng Beishi came from the same mountain village as Zuyun. His nickname is Big Dog, and there is also Ergu. Tang Liwen nodded and said, then you go find the big dog and feed him this pill. The severed limbs will be reborn. This means I have fulfilled my promise to Zuyun. Sun Suanhua immediately said, being respectful is worse than obeying orders. However, I have one more thing to ask, Senior, was this elixir refined by you yourself? What, is there a problem? Tang Liwen couldn't see Sun Suanhua's expression and didn't understand what he meant. Senior, please forgive me for speaking bluntly. The main medicine and auxiliary medicine of this limb regeneration pill have been used up, but, the big dog seems to be only in the realm of foundation building. If he takes this pill, he may not be able to bear it for a while. If you don't take advantage of the medicine, you may explode and die. What did you say? Tang Liwen screamed. She can make pills, but she is not specialized in making pills. I don't know much about the pharmacology of some elixirs. But with this limb regeneration pill, Sun Suanhua saw the problem. Senior, if this junior's guess is correct, the multi-flavored main ingredients of this elixir all come from the wild sea, right? It's true, I got it from letting Ergu go to the sea. That's it, Sun Suanhua nodded and said, the sea water is too salty, and these elixirs will taste more or less salty. If they are ordinary elixirs, it is no problem. But this elixir is made of on the regeneration of limbs. Too much salt will have an impact on the regenerated broken arm. The big dog uses a sword, and if it affects his hand, it will naturally affect his sword practice. Sun Suanhua said it in a simple way, but Tang Liwen understood it clearly, and asked, then this pill is considered useless. That's not necessarily the case, Sun Suanhua said, if the senior doesn't dislike it, the problem should be eliminated by the junior refining this elixir. Okay, then I'll leave it to you, and I'll stay here. As far as I'm concerned, the Spirit Sword sect can be destroyed, but nothing can happen to the big dog. These words were extremely rude, but Sun Suanhua was unable to refute. There is no way, who can make the other party's realm far surpass him. In the late nascent soul stage, this was something he couldn't even imagine. Then I thought about the state of Zuyun. Could it be that we have also reached the nascent soul stage? When he thought of this, Sun Suanhua's heart was full of bitterness. The disciples who were unwilling to teach the exercises ended up achieving higher achievements than him. I really made a mistake. Returning to Lingjian sect, Sun Suanhua naturally walked towards the valley where he lived. After the dramatic changes in the Lingjian sect, there was an additional forbidden area, and it was this valley. Entering the valley, it was dilapidated. When Zuyun left, he took almost everything with him. In addition, when being chased by a monk from the sea area, he was led here, and finally a pile of talismans exploded, killing a foundation building stager. Therefore, the entire valley was in dilapidated condition, which made Sun Suanhua blow his beard and stare. "Good fellow, this valley has become like this when I'm not here. If I meet Zuyun, I will have to make him pay for it." Sun Suanhua returned the scolding, but in fact he was not angry at all. Instead, he thought that since Zuyun could take things with him after leaving, it showed that he was calm and leisurely at that time and should have been prepared for it. This kid. Sun Suanhua shook his head and planned to go to the alchemy room to refine the elixir. But when he just passed the medicine garden, his pupils contracted and he looked at a corner of the medicine garden. The elixirs here have been plucked out by Zuyun a long time ago. In the empty medicine garden, there is a clump of weeds with radiant spiritual power that is different from others. This is clearly a weed. How come it makes me feel like it's a magical medicine? Sun Suanhua found it extremely unbelievable. This simply went against common sense. If weeds had aura, would they still be weeds? But in addition to refining pills, he also has the ability to plant spiritual medicines. Naturally, he can tell whether it is a spiritual medicine at a glance. Is there something mysterious in my valley that I haven't discovered? But after living here for 100 years, why did such a strange thing happen when I left? Sun Suanhua subconsciously squatted in front of the weeds. Based on his experience, he thought that there was something wrong with the soil for planting. It doesn't matter if he doesn't look at it, but when he saw it, his breathing was almost stagnant. Because Zuyun put a handful of Zirang in this corner that year. And when he left, he only remembered to pull out the spiritual medicine and completely forgot about this matter. In the valley, no one has come in for these years, and no one has taken care of it. Naturally, some weeds in this corner have an unusual vitality. It turned out to be Zirang. Why is there Zirang in my valley? Sun Suanhua trembled all over, as if he had found a treasure. If he continues to live here for a long time in the future, wouldn't it be easier to grow spiritual medicine by himself? With more spiritual medicines, his alchemy can also be improved to a higher level. It's fate. It seems that I have to stay in Lingjian sect. Sun Suanhua took a deep breath and stood up. At the moment, there are still things to do. It is obvious that Zirang has not been discovered. Except Tang Liwen, no one here has even heard of Zirang. Even if Tang Liwen knows Zirang, she doesn't understand medicine. How can she recognize it? Treasure land, this has become a treasure land. Sun Suanhua suppressed his excitement and walked towards the alchemy room. If he knew that there were countless Zirang in Zuyun's fairy house, he would probably go crazy. At this time, Zuyun finally kept the two fox demons. Even though Chiuzuan was reluctant, the attitude of the fox demon king was also very tough. No matter how the two women resisted, they were finally taken away. Before leaving, the fox demon king kept thanking Zuyun and claimed that Zuyun would be their fox demon clan's eternal friend. Zuyun smiled and nodded. What he feared most was to make enemies with the fox clan. It's not that there will be trouble after making enemies, but he can't help but think of something more far-reaching. Dongshen's Hu. After learning about the news about Yasha Realm and Peepa Realm from Luo Yanran, he had a guess. Could the monsters in Ya Realm be deliberately infiltrated from Dongsheng Realm? Although there is no evidence to prove it, Zuyun is used to thinking the worst. At that time, a large number of monsters in the demon refining tower were released. How much panic did it cause in the entire Ya realm? Countless cultivators died under the sharp teeth and claws of monsters. Even as strong as Wanjian Mountain, they had to retreat. Indeed, the destruction of Wanjian Mountain was related to Zuyun's refining of the Chaos Sword. But even if Wanjian Mountain was still there, how long could they hold on? From this, it can be seen that if the monsters form a beast tide, How terrifying it will be. If there is a powerful demon king in Dongsheng realm, he will respond to the call and control these monsters. If there is no way to deal with it, I am afraid it will be more terrifying than the demon cultivators in Yusha realm occupying Peepa realm. No matter how powerful the demon cultivators in Yusha realm are, it is still a dispute between the human race. But the people in Dongsheng realm are the demon race. If they are not of my race, their hearts must be different. Unconsciously, Zuyun thought of the demon beasts in the immortal mansion, including Lao Ma and Lao Jin. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 665. Forget it, let's forget about it for now. I have the whip in my hand and I'm on my territory. Even if there are demon kings coming to make trouble, I won't be afraid of them. Zuyun muttered to himself, but he couldn't help but think of the demon refining tower. Will the demon refining tower be a deterrent to the eastern Sheng realm monsters? Zuyun smiled bitterly and shook his head. The more he thought about it, the more questions he had. He could only lament that as his strength grew, the road to immortality became increasingly bumpy. He could completely ignore the life and death of other people, but unfortunately, this went against his Taoist conscience. If it is not resolved, inner demons will form in his heart again. In the end, it will still affect his practice. Putting all these thoughts behind, Zuyun continued on his way. In order to return to Yunzhou faster, he decided to pass directly through Chenan. Back then, Yayong could travel by water, so I, Zuyun, could naturally do the same. Furthermore, with his appearance in the late stage of pill formation, in this place where spiritual energy is relatively scarce, even if he encounters danger, he can still resolve it safely. It took several days to go south, and Zuyun arrived at the seaside of Chenan. During the process, he also passed the small mountain village where Menghui once stayed. However, he did not stay, but flew over the sea, and then flew all the way along the coastline. The Lingjian sect has also been extremely busy these days. In order to prevent the casual cultivators and mortals in the small town at the foot of the mountain from being accidentally injured by Huo Maoang and others who might return, Zhou Ruyu and Yu Yulin brought them all into the sect and specially set aside an uninhabited mountain for them to rest. Ergu and Yezii have both woken up, and Daegu has taken the amputated limb regeneration pill, and his broken right hand has grown back. Tang Liwen also repaired the star movement formation. Everyone is busy with something. Only Sun Suanhua, after tempering the elixir and giving it to Big Dog, has never been seen again. That's right. He was cultivating the elixir in the valley. With that handful of soil, this has simply become a treasure in Sun Suanhua's heart. Tang Liwen originally thought that Sun Suanhua would come to her to discuss the formation. But he never thought that in the past few days, not even Sun Suanhua was seen. With the mountain protection formation, the Lingjian sect can be temporarily safe. Even if Huo Maoang and others come back, she can go and deal with it immediately. Therefore, on this day, Tang Liwen took Qiu Qi and broke into the valley. Senior. Sun Suanhua looked more like an old farmer at this time. He was squatting in front of an elixir tree, holding a pen and paper in his hand, as if he was taking notes. When he saw Tang Liwen, he stood up suddenly and saluted slightly. Why, did you suddenly plant a magical medicine? Tang Liwen was secretly angry. Although I, a master of formations, didn't say it explicitly, you should not discuss formations with me when you are busy. Why are you so obsessed with elixirs here? If you weren't Zuyun's master, I would definitely give you a good look. If you are a good monk, why are you planting fields? Although Tang Liwen didn't care, her face didn't look good. This. Sun Suanhua was a little hesitant. He was really afraid that Tang Liwen would recognize him as Zirang. He was also a little negligent. Although he arranged a formation outside the valley, he was so anxious that he forgot that Tang Liwen was also a formation master. And his formation was just an ordinary formation, so naturally it couldn't stop Tang Liwen. What, is there something unspeakable? Tang Liwen couldn't help but smile and said, "Yes Xuanhua, I really can't imagine how you can teach a disciple with such outstanding talent as Zuyun." Sun Xuanhua looked embarrassed and said, "Senior, don't make fun of the junior. I'm ashamed to say that, Zuyun, that kid, has his own thoughts and opinions." He really explained the master's principle of personal cultivation when he came in. "You don't want to take credit," Tang Liwen nodded and said, "Zuyun is indeed good, and I think so. You are only in the early stage of pill formation, but when I parted with Zuyun that day, he was already in the middle stage of pill formation. It is better to be better than a blue man. The waves behind push the waves ahead, you are the wave ahead, don't be beaten to death on the beach. Senior, if that day comes, it will be too late for me to be happy." Sun Xuanhua also smiled and said, "Zuyun has his own Taoist heart, and his behavior is different. He will definitely be able to ascend to immortality one day. As a master, I can be considered to have face." "You're right," Tang Liwen's eyes flickered, and she said, "I don't know how Zuyun is doing now." Calculating the time, there are still almost 2 months before the secret realm of the Book of Heaven is about to end. She didn't know that something strange had happened in the secret realm of the Book of Heaven and it ended early. Zuyun did win the heavenly book, but because it was the 5 elements of Chaos Sutra, after it was snatched away by Xianxia and the others, he did not pursue it again. Fortunately, Zuyun left safely after appearing in Yusha realm. Secret realm of the Book of Heaven. Sun Xuanhua was a little curious. He had never been to the Peepa realm, so naturally he didn't know about the secret realm of the Book of Heaven. The secret realm also represents opportunities and immortality. In his opinion, Zuyun, a boy, has always had good luck with immortality. Yes, he needs to help me get something from the secret realm. After getting it, he will meet me here. He also said that the Spirit Sword sect is a good place. She already knew what had happened before, and what she had seen in the past few days. The feeling that Lingjian sect gave her was indeed different from other sects. There is no infighting or intrigue here. Zhou Ruyu and Yu Yulin cooperated really well with each other. Seeing that Tang Liwen no longer cared about him cultivating the elixir, Sun Xuanhua felt relieved and took the initiative to discuss the formation. The two of them entered the library one after the other. Sun Xuanhua's attainments in formations are also extraordinary, and Tang Liwen is also obsessed with formations. The most important thing is that they also have a place to communicate on the talisman. In this way, while waiting in the library, I lost track of time. Until, Zuyun's figure appeared at the foot of Lingjian mountain. Strange, why is there no one in the town at the foot of the mountain? Zuyun frowned. In the past, no matter what happened to Lingjian sect, the town at the foot of the mountain would not be implicated. But at this time, these houses have not been taken care of for a long time. Not only are they dusty, but there are also snakes, rats, insects and ants escaping from time to time in the houses. Then he looked at Lingjian sect. No one could be seen at the mountain gate. His heart was suddenly shocked. He secretly thought something was wrong, so he immediately ran towards the mountain road, but he hit the wall of the formation. When he just reacted, his whole body fell into endless void. Looking at the familiar stars in the sky, Zuyun was immediately dumbfounded. This, star movement formation, it seems that Aunt Tang is indeed here. And she has plenty of spiritual power, so I guess it is running normally. It seems that there is no one at the bottom of the mountain, maybe it is a coincidence. Zuyun suddenly breathed a sigh of relief and began to observe the stars. This formation is much simpler than the Fire Dragon Sect's Valley, and it is not difficult for Zuyun to break through it. It's just that it takes time. But at this moment, Tang Liwen in the library suddenly stood up and said to Sun Suanhua in a deep voice, "Xiao, someone broke into the formation, it feels like a pill formation period." The two discussed it for a long time, and their names became more familiar. In the Den formation period, it must be that they who left earlier are back. Sun Suanhua also focused his gaze, and quickly took out a stack of Fire Phoenix talisman from his arms and held it in his hand. "Walk." Tang Liwensu waved her hand and led Sun Suanhua through the valley formation and flew towards the mountain gate. But by coincidence, Huo Maoang and others, with nearly 100 foundation building and chi refining monks, arrived at the foot of the Spirit Sword Sect mountain. In about a month, they traveled all the way north to capture these monks. It is true that Yunzhou's spiritual energy is too scarce, and those who can cultivate it need at least 3 spiritual roots and above. Therefore, when they returned to Lingjian sect, they thought of taking a look at it. The first was to see if the 8 fellow disciples had broken through the mountain protecting formation, and the second was to see if they could make a mistake. After all, one person has 100 spirit stones. Go up and have a look. Huo Maoang also waved his hand, and the other 4 people quickly flew up. But just as they landed outside the formation wall, 2 figures appeared at the mountain gate. They did not touch the formation, were not sucked into it, and naturally saw Tang Liwen's face. Huo Maoang was immediately dumbfounded. "Tang, Elder Tang. Are you, the boy from Dan Pavilion?" Hearing that the voice seemed familiar, Tang Liwen immediately scanned Huo Maoang's body with his spiritual consciousness through the formation, and recognized it immediately. "I've met Elder Tang." Huo Maoang knelt down quickly, and the 4 people behind him also fell to the ground at the same time. Tang Liwen glanced over again, and the other 4 people all had the same aura on them. "If you don't stay well in the Fire Dragon sect, what are you doing here in Yunzhou?" As she spoke, her eyes revealed cold murderous intent. Just because her whereabouts cannot be known to the people of the Fire Dragon sect. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 666. Elder Tang, I'll wait. Huo Maoang turned his head and looked at the 4 people kneeling behind him, gritted his teeth and said, "We are ordered by the sect to come to Yunzhou to bring some monks into the sect. This is the order of the sect master. You guys dare not fail to do so from. Is the Fire Dragon sect so short of people?" Tang Liwen knew what happened some time ago. All the disciples of the Internal Affairs Hall died in the Demon Control sect, which triggered a series of things. Yes, Huo Maoang smiled bitterly. Facing the nascent soul stage, he was afraid that if there was something wrong, he would turn this murderous intention into a weapon to kill him, so he immediately played the emotional card. "Elder Tang, have you met Senior Brother Qinjue and Fairy Lian? Before I left the mountain, I seem to have heard that Fairy Lian and Senior Brother Qinjue went out." This is half true and half false. But his purpose was to remind Tang Liwen that his relationship with Zhu Yun and Lian Nishang was not bad. Sure enough, after hearing this, Tang Liwen's momentum receded a little. "I have a story to tell. I have fallen out with the Fire Dragon section. If I let you go back safely, if Zhong Jingguo and others come to make trouble, I'm afraid you will be in great trouble. So, you should stay here for the time being." After hearing that there was no need to die, the 5 of them finally breathed a sigh of relief. Huo Maoang frowned and said, "Elder Tang, those monks we kidnapped." Sun Suanhua laughed and said, "Senior Tang, it just so happens that Xiao and I are short of some handy men. The Lingjian sect is also short of people. How about letting them join the Lingjian sect? That's not bad, but it's up to their sect master to make the decision on this matter, right?" Tang Liwen smiled slightly. After all, she was just a passerby in Lingjian sect. That little girl will definitely agree. Sun Suanhua was determined, and to be honest, he did need manpower. Soon, Zhou came with Yu Yulin. And Tang, Sr. Zhou and Sun Suanhua are not that familiar yet. On the contrary, Yu Yulin smiled and said, Uncle Seventh, what are your orders? Sun Suanhua waved his hand and said, there are more than 100 people at the foot of the mountain. Can they be included in the Lingjian sect? Not to mention changing to swordsmanship, it would also be good to join them as handymen. This. Yu Yulin glanced at several pill-forming periods not far in front of him, and suddenly he didn't dare to speak out. Tang Liwen also knew that Huo Maoang and the others were really not capable of being used by ordinary spirit sword sect disciples, so she said calmly, these guys, just follow me. Yes, Senior, Yu Yulin bowed and nodded, then turned to look at Zhou and said, Junior Sister Zhou, our Lingjian sect does not reject anyone who comes. Anyway, there are several seniors sitting in the formation, so it would be good to include them. I listen to Senior Brother Yu, you will make arrangements for these people when the time comes. Zhou delivered everything to Yu Yulin. Soon, the monks at the foot of the mountain were brought to the mountain gate. Several of them had extremely ugly faces when they saw Yu Yulin and Zhou. Just because they know these two people. Lingjian sect is in Yunzhou, and it is very popular during this period. Even if you are immortal, as long as you have good character, you can at least be a handyman here. Not to mention the gifted dolls. This is tantamount to taking away the seedlings of other sections naturally, they will not like Lingjian sect. But at this time, obviously, people are under the eaves and have to bow their heads. Having been kidnapped from their respective sects by Huo Maoang and others, it would be uncomfortable for anyone else to become a disciple of the Lingjian sect. Not to mention Tang Liwen, Sun Suanhua alone was not someone they could look up to. No matter how unhappy I felt, I could only join the Spirit Sword sect obediently at this time. Yu Yulin divided these people into 3 categories according to their realm. The 6th level of Qi refining is in the former category, the 6th level is in the latter category, and the foundation building stage is in the 3rd category. An ordinary disciple was called, and then Yezhi was called. If the monks in the foundation building stage join forces to resist, with his strength, they will naturally not be able to suppress them. And with Yezhi Zhengkang, they certainly wouldn't be able to cause any trouble. Yu Yulin personally took away 2 groups of Qi refining stage disciples. As soon as he left, Yezhi came and met Sun Suanhua's eyes. The two fell silent immediately. Tang Liwen saw something was wrong and couldn't help but frown. Looking at this situation, she thought there was an old grudge. However, she did not speak directly, after all, there were outsiders here. Who would have thought? Yezhi suddenly knelt down with a plop. The child is unfilial. After saying these 4 words, Yezhi kowtowed 3 times in a row. This time, everyone was dumbfounded. Who would have thought that there would suddenly be a scene where father and son recognized each other? What was even more unexpected was that Sun Suanhua had no reaction at all. Everyone looked around in surprise, only to realize that Sun Suanhua was already in tears. But he didn't know the real purpose of Yezhi's pursuit of him. But despite this, Sun Suanhua still stepped forward to help Yezhi up and said, "Why are you in Lingjian sect?" "Dad," Yezhi said with red eyes, "in the reincarnation of heaven, Wanjian mountain was destroyed, and I met your disciple Zuyun. It's a long story, but I can only say that if it weren't for him, the child would have died long ago." "Is it, Zuyun again?" Sun Suanhua murmured a few words and said, "Since Wanjian mountain is destroyed, you can stay here with peace of mind. It just so happens that I also plan to stay here for a long time. Don't mention the past things again." "Dad, Yezhi was also choked up and did not speak, and Sun Suanhua did not intend to have a long conversation with him. There was still business to do at this time. He patted Yezhi on the shoulder and said, "It seems that Zuyun has helped you a lot. When he comes, I will thank him properly." Just as Sun Suanhua finished speaking, a figure suddenly appeared out of thin air and said in a faint tone, "How do you want to thank me?" Everyone heard the sound and couldn't help but exclaimed, "Wish Yun." It was Zuyun who had just found the exit from the Dozwan Seeing shifting formation. They say it's better to come early than to arrive by chance. He, master, I've never seen you shed horse urine. Zuyun said in a slightly mocking tone, then turned to Tang Liwen, "And Tang, your formation is too simple this time." Tang Liwen smiled and said, "Good boy, do you dare to laugh at your Aunt Tang?" Sun Suanhua was also extremely excited and said, "Senior, this kid never knows what respecting a teacher is, and you are making fun of me." Tang Liwen smiled and said nothing, then pointed at Huo Maoang and said, "Look, who is here?" Only then did Zuyun realize that there were several people beside him with a slightly familiar aura. When I took a closer look, I was immediately stunned. "Huo Maoang, why did you come to Lingjian sect too?" This. Huo Maoang had seen Zuyun's appearance before. However, at that time, he didn't know that this was Zuyun's true face, so he had to scratch his head and said, "Senior brother Chinjua, it's a long story, just listen to me." "It's a long story, so don't tell me. Now that you're here, let's just stop leaving." Zuyun was also extremely sober. Since his identity was exposed, it was naturally impossible for them to return to the Fire Dragon sect with the news. Of course, if Huo Maoang sincerely stays here, he will naturally treat him well. But if it doesn't work, then I can't say. We can only put him under house arrest here, and the other four can only kill him and destroy his corpse. Huo Maoang gave a bitter smile, looked at Tang Liwen, and said, "Elder Tang, I wonder if the 8 fellow disciples in front of me are now." Tang Liwen knew what he meant and said, "You are already dead, how can I still lie to you?" "Thank you." Huo Maoang then said to Zuyun, "Senior brother Chinjua, I am willing to stay. I believe this Lingjian sect is a good place." "You won't be disappointed." Zuyun raised his eyebrows, then put away his smile and said to the other four, "For Huo Maoang's sake, I will give you a chance to live." The other four people looked at each other, and then respectfully said, "We are also willing to stay." Zuyun nodded slightly and said, "It would be best if you stay. After some time, you will feel happy for this decision." Several people lowered their heads and did not dare to say anything, but Zuyun finally walked up to Yezhi. "Brother Ye, long time no see. It seems that the misunderstanding between my master and me has been explained clearly. You came out before I could say anything." Yezhi spread his hands, a little helpless, but more relaxed. He was obsessed because he was afraid that Sun Suanhua would not know his true intentions. Fortunately, because of Zuyun's relationship, they finally met in the Lingjian sect. Zuyun asked the big dog and the 2 dogs again, greeted Zhou and asked everyone to leave. Soon, only Zuyun and Tang Liwen were left at the mountain gate. "Zuyun, did something happen?" Her eyes were solemn and her tone was a little heavy. Just because of what Zuyun said when he warned the 4 Fire Dragon sect disciples about being lucky. Zuyun took a deep breath and then said, "Aunt Tang, the Peeper realm may be going to change. Maybe, the entire mortal world will also change." As soon as these words came out, Tang Liwen's expression changed instantly. Zuyun's words are enough to show the seriousness of the matter. "I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills." Author, Banzhuan Xianxia. Chapter 667. "Then come to my peak and talk." Tang Liwen flicked her sleeves, rolled up Zuyun, and flew to the top of the mountain where she was. Entering the cave, Tang Liwen said solemnly, "What happened to the Peeper realm?" What will happen to the mortal realm? Tell me quickly. Zuyun also got straight to the point, saying, all the nascent soul monks in the Peeper realm, under the leadership of the chief master of the Beast Pet Pavilion, are going to attack the Yasha realm. Jade, Yasha realm. Tang Liwen, who was at the peak of the late nascent soul stage, couldn't help but take a breath of cold air. Yes, this is the exact news. The important thing is that I came back from Yasha realm. Zuyun's words were even more shocking. Didn't you go to the secret realm of the heavenly book? Why did you come back from the Yasha realm again? Tang Liwen was a little confused. Yes, the secret realm of the heavenly book, I got the heavenly book. Then the secret realm will end, and everyone in the secret realm should appear in the Yasha realm. Zuyun's words surprised and delighted Tang Liwen. What is surprising is that the secret realm of the heavenly book can transport people to other realms, which is extremely unreasonable. Fortunately, Zuyun got the book of heaven. Doesn't that mean her eyes can be treated? And Tang, let's not talk about the heavenly book for now. I have something to ask of you, kid, and I hope you can agree. Zuyun said seriously. Seeing this, Tang Liwen also put away her expression and said, you tell me first, if you can do it, of course I can. And Tang, I hope that after your eyes are cured, you can stay in Lingjian sect. You should have seen that there are many of my relatives and friends here. Tang Liwen was stunned and said, are you afraid that the battle between Peeper realm and Yasha realm will affect Yunzhou? I'm not afraid of this, but I'm afraid that the fight between the two realms will cause Dong Shengsheng to have dissent. These two realms are also internal struggles among the human race, and Yunzhou is so far away from the Yasha realm and the Peeper realm. It is far away, and it will probably not be affected here, and the East Sheng realm is full of monsters and monster cultivators. Tang Liwen snorted and said with a smile, Zuyun, you are too worried. Others don't know, but our Tang family knows something. The monsters from the East Sheng realm don't dare to come to our human territory. Why? This time, it was Zuyun's turn to be surprised. What you don't know is that the four major realms of the mortal world are the Ya realm, the Peeper realm, the Yasha realm and the Dongsheng realm. The Dongsheng realm is in the Far East, and it was actually driven there by the human race back then. We humans are the spirits of all things. There are all kinds of ways to practice, and all ways have their own ways. I don't know how many years ago, a powerful senior refined a supreme magic weapon to guard the center of the mortal world. In the middle of the mortal world, where is that? You may not expect that it is Chuzhu. Tang Liwen said with a chuckle, thinking that such news could scare Zuyun. It's a pity that she can't see the expression on Zuyun's face at this time. And Tang, you're talking about the demon refining tower. Hey, you also know about the demon refining tower. Tang Liwen was a little surprised at first, but then she felt relieved. That's right, the demon refining tower is more or less a forbidden area. Since we can talk about Chuzhu, we can't escape the matter of the demon refining tower. Yes, our Tang family has inherited it for a long time, and it is different from the path that most monks take. It is precisely because it has been recorded in ancestral history for a long time, so even the Tang family doesn't know much about it. The demon refining tower, it exists to intimidate the demon cultivators in the Dongsheng realm. The reason why it is in Chuzhu is because no matter where the Dongsheng realm breaks into the human territory, the tower master can rush to help quickly. Seeing Tang Liwen's relaxed expression, Zuyun sighed and said, but Aunt Tang, the demon refining tower has now fallen into the hands of a demonic cultivator. And that demonic cultivator regards the demonic refining tower as his natal magic weapon to practice demonic skills. Tang Liwen's expression suddenly froze. What did you say? The demon refining tower is no longer in Chuzhu. Moreover, I have very certain news that this tower is now in the Yasha realm. To be honest, the current tower owner broke into the secret realm of the Book of Heaven with me at that time. How could this tower be refined by a demonic cultivator? Tang Liwen murmured to herself, obviously unable to accept the news Zuyun told her. "Aunt Tang, it seems we have to be prepared. If this news is known to Dongsheng realm, I'm afraid, they might really take advantage of others." Zuyun never thought that his worries might come true. He didn't know the situation in Dongsheng realm. I had only read about it in books, and there were endless demonic cultivators there. And since the number is large, then naturally, more demon king realms will appear. In addition, demon cultivators have a longer innate lifespan. Compared with human cultivation, there is no problem of lifespan being affected by realm. So relatively speaking, if Dongsheng has evil intentions, if they really want to confront him, I'm afraid things will get out of hand. How could the demon refining tower be refined? Tang Liwen was still talking to herself. Zuyun could see it. Obviously this completely shocked Tang Liwen. "Aunt Tang, it's too late. No matter how we think about it, it's all in vain. Now, we can only think of ways to deal with it. What news do you know about the demon refining tower? Can you tell me?" Zuyun's words made Tang Liwen wake up immediately. After finally calming down, Tang Liwen said, "Listen carefully. Times have changed and the Tang family has been destroyed. Maybe you know the news about the demon refining tower, except me. There's no one outside anymore." Zuyun quickly cheered up and listened to Tang Liwen said slowly. "No one knows how long ago it was. This is what the ancestral history said. The design of the demon refining tower is very mysterious. I only know that the 9th floor is the key to the entire tower. It is said that there are 12 statues of demon kings on the 9th floor. They are arranged in the order of rat, ox, tiger, rabbit, dragon, snake, horse, sheep, monkey, chicken, dog, and pig. In addition to the 12 statues, there are 12 demon kings that are exactly the same as the statues. And the meaning of their existence is to suppress the tower spirit. The reason why the demon refining tower can suppress all demons is because the tower spirit itself is a golden rock. The power of the golden rock has long been said to have exceeded what the mortal world can bear. The power of the tower. This has not been verified. But in my opinion, it is very likely. Imagine that the demon king will also be suppressed by the tower, so the tower spirit will naturally be stronger than the demon king. So, not only do we need 12 statues, but we also need 12 demon kings. In the tower, they restrain each other, use the aura of the tower spirit itself to intimidate all the demons, but use the demon king and the statue to suppress the power of the tower spirit itself. This involves many means such as array formation, beast control, and weapon refining, which shows how powerful the means of the great power were back then. Going back, the power of the 12 demon kings and the statues is not enough to completely suppress the tower spirit. So the remaining 8 floors of the tower, there are countless monsters with progressive levels of realms, providing a steady stream of demonic power for the demon refining tower. Under this, the demon refining tower can stand safely in Chuzhu for many years. Not to mention, there is also the Wanyao sect under the tower, which is responsible for guarding the tower. Hearing this, Zuyun couldn't help asking, "Aunt Tang, the Wanyao section has disappeared 1,000 years ago." "I know," Tang Liwen nodded and said, "the Wanyao sect had selfish motives and tried to control the demon refining tower, so it died. What Wanyao Ju is actually a lie used by the Wanyao sect master back then." Hearing such a secret, Zuyun was also shocked, and then heard Tang Liwen continue to say, "If the 10,000 demon sect was gone, it was gone too. After all, no one dared to break into the demon refining tower at that time. The news that once you enter the demon refining tower, you will never return is known to all cultivators with some strength in the entire Yao realm. So, you told me that the demon refining tower was refined by someone. I really can't accept it." Zuyun took a deep breath and said, "Then Aunt Tang, what if there are no demon beasts in the demon refining tower? Without demon beasts, the demon power in the demon refining tower will gradually become unbalanced, and it will definitely not be able to suppress the tower spirit in the end. Zuyun continued to ask, what if there is no demon king on the 9th floor? Without the demon king, the tower spirit will definitely regain its self-awareness. Zuyun then asked the last question. What if even the 12 statues are destroyed? In that case, I'm afraid that the golden pen will be born, and the creatures in the mortal world will suffer. Hearing this, Zuyun sat down on the ground dejectedly. Zuyun, you. Tang Liwen was still a little confused at first, but suddenly, she guessed the truth. She couldn't help but scream, what you just asked, did you see it with your own eyes? Zuyun was powerless to respond and could only nod. Tang Liwen's breathing stagnated. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 668. If anything, everything she learned from the Tang family's ancestral history was true. So what kind of disaster will a creature or a monster whose strength far transcends the mortal world bring? Zuyun, I don't think I can promise you. Tang Liwen stared at Zuyun's eyes and said. Aunt Tang, are you worried? I have to worry. I am already at the peak of the late nascent soul stage. One step forward will transform me into a god, but one step back will lead to death and no life. It's you, what do you think? Zuyun almost didn't think about it. I will choose to stay. You are seeking death. Tang Liwen was a little unbelievable and said, Zuyun, I know that you are kind-hearted and you also value love and justice to others. But the premise is that you can ensure your own safety. And Tang, I think, Zuyun almost blurted out that he could have a place to hide. The worst thing is, before the crisis comes, hide in the fairy mansion in advance. But the problem is, that's not the real reason he wants to stay. He had seen with his own eyes that Yao realm monks were ravaged by monsters in the demon refining tower. And if that existence more powerful than the demon king appears. You what? Tang Liwen was a little angry and said, Zuyun, don't tell me, the purpose of letting me stay is to take care of these Xianxia. In her eyes, the pill-forming stage is indeed like an ant. Zuyun nodded silently. Previously, he only thought about the possible dangers in Dongsheng realm, so he felt that Tang Liwen would agree. Unexpectedly, they talked about a more terrifying existence. There is no need to discuss this matter. Zuyun, as promised, I helped you heal the big dog's broken arm, and you have to take me to find that expert to heal my eyes. However, now you and I have different ways and we don't want to work together. I won't embarrass you. Just give me the Book of Heaven, you don't need to take me with you. Tang Liwen sighed and said. Zuyun showed a bitter look on his face and said, Aunt Tang, the Book of Heaven, was snatched away while we were in the secret realm. However, I know the contents of the Book of Heaven. What did you say? Tang Liwen's expression also changed. The heavenly book was taken away. Wait, can you say it again? Can you see what is written in the heavenly book? Yes. After hearing such a positive answer, Tang Liwen's mood could not calm down for a long time. Naturally, she had also inquired about the rumors about the Book of Heaven. After all, the purpose of her asking for the Book of Heaven was to cure her eyes, otherwise she wouldn't be cultivating Lian Nishang with all her heart. It might be said that she was taking advantage of her, but Lian Nishang actually benefited from her and her strength was also improved. The same goes for Zuyun. In other words, there is a transaction between them. But Tang Liwen got even more shocking news than the result of the transaction. It is said that only those who are destined to read the heavenly book can read the words on it. This is why Tang Liwen is not very interested in the Book of Heaven, but is more willing to hand it over to that expert. In this case, Zuyun is that destined person? And you? Tang Liwen quickly made a decision in her heart and said, if you write down the contents of the Book of Heaven and give it to me, You have fulfilled your agreement. Good. Zuyun began to practice the 5 elements of Chaos Sutra when he embarked on the path to immortality, so he naturally knew the shortcomings of this technique. He is not afraid that others will be stronger than him if they practice this technique. However, what he can write is only the part that reaches the elixir formation stage. As for what follows, Zuyun planned to write some casually based on his experience. He believed that with his understanding of the 5 elements, he could completely fool the expert Tang Liwen mentioned. "And Tang, please wait for a moment, I will write right now." After saying goodbye to Tang Liwen, Zuyun walked towards the valley. But Qiu Qi's head appeared in Tang Liwen's arms. Zhizi. Qiu Qi's eyes were rolling, looking at the direction Zuyun was leaving. Tang Liwen gently stroked her head and said, "Xiao Qi, I can only ask you to help me lead the way again. When I heal my eyes, I will send you back to Shiwanda Mountain." Zhizi. Qiu Qi called out twice and retracted his head. After seeing Zuyun again, the reason why she didn't show her face was because she smelled the aura of her father on Zuyun. For some reason, Qiu Qi was a little afraid that Zuyun would take her back and send her to Shiwen Mountain Valley. "Zuyun, why are you looking so sad? Did the Tang family bully you?" As soon as he entered the valley, Sun Suanhua immediately stood up from the edge of the medicine garden and said to Zuyun with a smile. Around the valley, more than 10 people who had just been brought in by Sun Suanhua were cleaning and tidying up. "Master, congratulations, it's also the elixir formation stage." Zuyun didn't want to worry Sun Suanhua, so he said with a smile, then changed the subject and said, "Why, you are planning to live in the valley again, so you want to plant some elixirs." As soon as he took a glance, his eyes immediately widened. Only then did he remember that he had forgotten a handful of soil here. Sun Suanhua looked at Zuyun's face and noticed Zuyun's expression. As soon as his heart tightened, he thought that Zuyun was trustworthy and there was no need to hide it from him. "However, if you don't show off properly, how can you impress my master?" "Boy, did you see something?" Sun Suanhua stroked his beard and said proudly. "Isn't it just Zirang? What's there to be proud of?" Zuyun spread his hands and didn't pretend to be indifferent. He continued to walk forward. "Master, I'm going to the library to do some work. Don't let those disciples disturb me." Sun Suanhua just watched Zuyun pass by, a little stunned. "Is it because I didn't explain it clearly, or you kid don't know what Zirang is? Stinky boy, wait." When Sun Suanhua saw Zuyun step into the library, he immediately chased after him, stepped with the steps of Chang Shengju, and flashed in front of Zuyun. "What?" Zuyun laughed in his heart. Sun Suanhua must want to show off, but his reaction made him punch cotton. Sun Suanhua put his hands on his hips and glared at him. "You kid, did you hear what I just said? Zirang. A treasure for growing spiritual medicine." Zuyun pretended to be impatient, stretched out his hand to push Sun Suanhua away, and said disdainfully, "I said I had something to do, it's just right that you came, help me guard the door here." "Stinky boy, you." Sun Suanhua immediately blew his beard and glared, but he was powerless to refute. Watching Zuyun walk up the stairs step by step, he always felt that something was stuck in his throat, and he couldn't swallow it or spit it out. "Humph, when you finish your business, I must have a good talk with you. Could it be that you really don't take Zirang seriously?" Sun Suanhua simply stood guard at the door, sat cross-legged, and waited for Zuyun to come down. After Zuyun went up to the 3rd floor, he casually set up a 9-turn 9-yang formation. He then entered the Immortal Mansion, not only took out the 5 elements Chaos Sutra, but also dug out more Zirang. He had already thought about it. After Tang Liwen left, he should also go back to Peepa Realm. Not only did Sun Qiniang not know what was going on in the Fire Dragon sect, but Peepa Realm would have a major war with Yasha Realm in at most half a month. He thought that only by doing his best to let them know about the human race civil war, it would most likely attract an attack from Dongsheng realm. And the key person was Zhu Feng. To be precise, on the demon refining tower. But Zhu Yun didn't know. The main body and the spirit of the tower spirit had long been divided into two. Picking up a pen and paper, Zhu Yun copied down word by word according to the font on the Five Elements Chaos Sutra, slightly modified it. It was not difficult for him to be a copycat and make some minor changes. However, he still kept a hand and omitted the skills after each realm breakthrough, including Chaos Palm and Thunder Escape technique. When he copied all the words he could see, he felt something was wrong. His own golden elixir was different from others. Is this related to the Five Elements Chaos Sutra, or is there another reason? After thinking about it, Zhu Yun invented a 5-color golden pill. Anyway, there is no need to copy the skills, and it is not a big deal to change it. And all the above are true. When the person who wants to practice the skill reaches the Jindan stage, it will take at least 100 or 80 years to practice to the Jindan stage. By then, when he finds something wrong, he doesn't know where he is. Without the burden in his heart, Zhu Yun can write about the nascent soul easily. Although he has not reached the nascent soul stage, he has burned many nascent soul spirits with the burning sky flame. Haven't you eaten pork, but have you seen pigs run? Soon, Zhu Yun wrote out the practice method of the nascent soul stage. But after reaching the god of transformation, he was a little scratching his head. Anyway, the nascent soul stage is just written nonsense, so just do it once and for all. Zhu Yun did it as he said, and he wrote like a god, and he actually wrote directly to the tribulation crossing stage. After reading it from beginning to end, Zhu Yun was also very satisfied. Not bad, not bad, I didn't expect that I could compile a set of exercises. After sorting out the papers and putting them away, Zhu Yun went downstairs to find Sun Suanhua. Boy, you finally came down. Sun Suanhua stared, feeling that he had been waiting for a long time. Zhu Yun laughed and said, Master, don't you have something important to do? By the way, do you have any books? It's best if they are old. Give me one. Boy, all the books in the library have been taken away by you, and you still want books from me. Sun Suanhua blew his beard again and stared at Zhu Yun with dissatisfaction. I gave those books away too. Zhu Yun curled his lips and said, hurry up, do you have any? Can't I buy them with spirit stones? After that, he stretched out his hand and took out 10,000 spirit stones from the Sumi ring. In front of Sun Suanhua, it was piled up like a mountain, which made Sun Suanhua dumbfounded. Good boy, you are so rich. 10,000 spirit stones, is it enough to buy a book? Zhu Yun laughed, he knew Sun Suanhua must be very poor. Yes, 10 books are enough. Sir, I guarantee you will be satisfied. Sun Suanhua was also a little bit unserious, rummaging in his storage bag for a while, and he really found an ancient book with no words on the cover. Not bad, it looks quite old. Zhu Yun glanced at it casually, took the book over, flipped through it a few times, but it was just an ordinary unofficial history book. Master, wait for me a moment. Zhu Yun took the book upstairs, carefully removed the cover, and bound the fake 5 Elements Chaos Sutra that he had just written. Although it looks a bit fake, the practice before the Jindan stage is real. I believe that after reading the content, the other party will definitely not care about these details. Zhu Yun then re-entered the Immortal Mansion, put the original copy of the 5 Elements Chaos Sutra back, thought for a while, took out a Sumi ring and the experience of alchemy and weapon making left by Yan Laoxi, and placed them on the table on the 3rd floor, then walked downstairs. Master, I'm leaving now. By the way, I left a little surprise for you on the 3rd floor, I hope you like it. Sun Suanhua was still immersed in the joy of 10,000 spirit stones, without raising his head, but muttered, what surprise is there, more than 10,000 spirit stones. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzhuan Xianxia. Chapter 669. Zuyun naturally heard this, but ignored it and went to find Tang Liwen. It was getting dark at this time, but in the Lingjian sect, he wouldn't get lost even if he closed his eyes. What's more, as he is in the Dan formation stage, he can fly away at will. Sun Suanhua finally collected all the spirit stones. After the excitement passed, he thought of going to the third floor to take a look. As soon as he reached the third floor, he froze on the spot. I saw a pile of soil half as tall as a man on the table, exuding a unique aura. This kid, he traveled around the immortal world and dug up the ancestral grave of some immortal, right? After a while, Sun Suanhua came back to his senses and muttered to himself. The distance between the door and the table was only about 10 steps, but Sun Suanhua felt that it took him hundreds of years to get closer. A small handful of 11 soil made him willing to stay in Lingjian sect. And this pile in front of me. I'm not leaving. There is so much soil, I am willing to die here. Sun Suanhua carefully took out a gold-rimmed storage bag from the slit of his belt. This is his most precious storage bag, and he usually doesn't want to put anything in it. At this time, this breath soil is completely worthy of this bag. You should be the one who made the most of this bag. Sun Suanhua muttered to himself and put away all the soil. As the table became empty, 2 notebooks and a ring stood out. My dear mother, this is the Sumuru ring. Sun Suanhua took a deep breath, but at least he didn't choke to death. He knows how to refine weapons, so he naturally knows how precious the Sumuru ring is. But this kid put a Sumuru ring here, obviously giving it to me. Good boy, good boy. Sun Suanhua only felt a little wet in his eyes, touched it, and then put it away unceremoniously. I told you you don't deserve it, but you really don't deserve it. He bit the tip of his finger, dripped some blood and let the ring recognize its owner, and then transferred the soil from the storage bag into the ring. Finally, he set his sights on the 2 experiences. Compared with soil and rings, the experience of refining alchemy and making utensils may not be considered very valuable. But for Sun Suanhua, the meaning is extraordinary. After all, Yan Laoxi is also in the Danja stage, but Sun Suanhua has just entered the Danja stage. These 2 insights can help Sun Suanhua avoid many detours in the next 2 steps. Zuyun, the most correct decision I made in my life was not to embark on the path to immortality, but to accept you as my apprentice. Not to mention, if you call me master now, I really don't dare to agree. Damn it, my master didn't give you much, but you, my disciple, gave me so much. Ashamed, ha ha ha, ashamed. Sun Suanhua was almost going crazy with joy. His voice spread into the valley, making all the new disciples look at each other in shock, not daring to stop what they were doing. After all, this is a period of elixir formation. They are just building foundations and refining qi. At this time, Zuyun also arrived at the mountain peak where Tang Liwen was. And Tang, I've finished writing. Presenting the technique, Tang Liwen just turned over it slightly and put it away. Then let's say goodbye. Tang Liwen simply stood up and said. And Tang, it's getting late, why don't we leave before dawn? No, Tang Liwen said with a smile, Zuyun, do you think there is any difference between darkness and dawn for me? Zuyun didn't say anything, it seemed that was indeed the case. Tang Liwen continued, Zuyun, don't blame Aunt Tang, everyone has their own ambitions. But Aunt Tang wants to tell you that no matter what happens in the mortal world, you still put your own safety first. Everything else is floating clouds. After saying that, Tang Liwen flashed and disappeared from Zhu Yun's eyes. Zhu Yun was the only one left in the empty cave. Floating clouds, but this is my Taoist heart. How can it be floating clouds? It can only be said that, our Taoist hearts are different. Zhu Yun shook his head and muttered to himself a few times, then walked out of the cave in a daze. From a high position, several peaks in Lingjian sect are brightly lit. He could even see that Yezhi was refining swords with some disciples. It was dark and far away, so Zhu Yun couldn't see clearly, so he used the void-breaking spiritual eyes technique and discovered that there were several of them, the little ones he met in the Juhao Mountains. Brother Ye seems to have a change of heart and is teaching these kids so hard. If, as Aunt Tang said, everything except his own safety is just a cloud, then how could he do this? Zhu Yun's heart suddenly became clear. Turn around and look elsewhere. The lights in the sect master's hall are still on, why not go take a look? With a thought in Zhu Yun's mind, he used the thunder escape technique. After a few breaths, he was already standing at the entrance of the sect master's palace. The voices of Zhou Ruyu and Yu Yulin came from inside. Moreover, there are two other familiar voices. A stream of warmth suddenly appeared on Zhu Yun's body, and he pushed the door in uncontrollably. Little wish. Little wish. The other two people were Big Dog and Ergu. I miss you so much. The big dog actually jumped up with sword steps and hugged Zhu Yun in his arms. Ergu couldn't slow down much and hugged Zhu Yun from the other side. Me too. Zhu Yun laughed loudly, ha ha ha, me too. The three of them hugged each other, regardless of their realm. Let Zhu Yun's heart become even brighter. The big dog and the second dog are all my good brothers. They are not floating clouds. After a long time, the three of them separated. Zhu Yun looked at the two of them up and down and said, Big dog, I still have to go to the Peepa realm. You should hurry up and cultivate to the pill formation stage. I know, don't worry. When talking about cultivation, Big Dog said confidently. Ergu also said, I will also practice as soon as possible. I believe you, Zhu Yun nodded and said, if you need any pills, go to my master. If he dares not to give them, he. The three of them looked at each other and smiled, making Yu Yulin and Zhou Ruyu beside them look envious. The big dog said again, Xiaozu, why did you go to Peepa realm again? There are important things to do, so you can just stay here with peace of mind. Lingjian sect is quite safe now. There is Brother Ye, my master, and 5 other Dan formation stages. I want to come to a large sect in the Yao realm. That's all, right? Others don't know, but Zhu Yun knows that there is almost no pill formation period left in the Yao realm. That's right, we still have a nascent soul stage. Several people present had seen the power of the Dozhuan seeing shift formation, so naturally they were extremely relieved. Zhu Yun smiled and said, Aunt Tang is gone and may not come back again. That's why I let you practice well. Before I leave, I will tell the master and ask him to refine more elixirs. He believed that Sun Suanhua would agree. Giving soil will allow Sun Suanhua to cultivate better elixirs faster, and in this way, more effective elixirs will be refined. And refining alchemy helps to promote his alchemy. For him, it is also a way to advance in cultivation. All in all, it's a win-win situation. Xiaozu, will you come back then? Ergu whispered. Of course I will come back. We agreed to enter this world of immortality together. Zhu Yun raised his head, his eyes full of confidence. That. The big dog wanted to say something more, but was interrupted by Zhu Yun. We are here today only because senior brother Zhang led us into the immortal sect. You haven't worshipped before, have you? Come on, senior brother Zhang's tomb is on the mountain behind this. Zhu Yun led the two of them out of the sect master's hall, took out 3 more bottles of spiritual wine, handed them to the two of them respectively, and also took 1 bottle for himself. There it is. Under the leadership of Zhu Yun, the three of them walked to the tombstone together. The Lingjian sect went through several turmoils, and finally Zhou Ruyu became the sect leader. Naturally, she turned this place into the sect's cemetery. In addition to Zhang Tianyuan's inconspicuous little grave bag being repaired, the same was true for Sun Qiniang's brother on the other side. Senior brother Zhang, the three of us brothers are here to treat you to a drink. Zhu Yun raised the wine bottle, and Big Dog and two dogs followed suit and made the same move. Senior brother Zhang, please come first. The three of them tipped the spout of the pot at the same time, and the wine with a hint of spiritual power overflowed. After pouring half the bottle, Zhu Yun said, Senior brother Zhang, we've done it too. Not far away. Zhou Ruyu and Yu Yulin also stood quietly in the darkness. Yu Yulin couldn't help but sigh, Senior brother Zhu is really a kind and righteous person. When I think of senior brother Tianyuan, the sect didn't care at all when he died. But senior brother Zhu always remembers that it was him who led him to the path of immortality. Zhou Ruyu said, that's why brother Xiao Zhu has achieved what he has achieved now. Without him, our Lingjian sect would probably be the same as before. Yes, Yu Yulin said with a smile, I remember when I first met senior brother Zhu, I was still a disciple of the Talisman Hall. At that time, everyone tried to steal talismans from me, but he was the only one who returned the extra talisman I gave him. From that time on, I believe that senior brother Zhu is a good person. Zhou Ruyu heard this with great interest, and secretly thought that brother Zhu was a bastard when he attacked little weirdos, and he often said that if he didn't take advantage of him, he was a bastard. He would actually return the extra talisman you gave him. It seems that you were fooled without realizing it. Zhou Ruyu covered her mouth and snickered, what senior brother you said is that brother Xiaozu is a good person. After a while, the three of them came back. They had said everything they needed to say. Zhu Yun knew that Sun Suanhua must have thousands of things to say to him at this time. After he finished speaking, he should release Meng Wei and Lian Nishang. After appeasing Huo Maoang and the other four pill-forming stages, it's almost time to set off. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 670. Valley, in the library. Zhu Yun, boy, where did you get so many treasures? When Sun Suanhua saw Zhu Yun coming back, he closed the door directly and his voice became very trembling. Zhu Yun smiled and said, Master, you should treat these things as your disciples and respect them. Good boy, you're welcome, Master. Sun Suanhua looked at Zhu Yun, extremely excited. Why are you so polite to me? Zhu Yun waved his hand casually and said, but Master, you also know that a gentleman is not guilty, but he is guilty of carrying a jade. Don't let anyone know about these things, otherwise it is inevitable that there will be people with bad intentions. I still understand this, Sun Suanhua calmed down and said, however, the original support. I forgot that here. In fact, I have been alive for a long time, but Master didn't know it. What a good boy, Sun Suanhua exclaimed, you can even forget such a good thing. I can only say that you have too many, so you don't care, right? No way, Zhu Yun said with a smile, at that time, I was just packing up and running away. How could I care about so much? By the way, Master, what are your plans in the future? I don't have any plans, of course I will stay in the Lingjian sect. I'm afraid there is no place safer than the Lingjian sect in the entire mortal world, right? Although the air in Yunzhou has thin spiritual power, I don't rely on the spirit power to begin with. If I practice hard, the soil can provide me with the elixir to practice alchemy, so I can naturally achieve a breakthrough in alchemy. I think so too, Zhu Yun nodded and said, Master, I will be leaving in a while, so I have to ask you to help look after the Lingjian sect. You have to make elixirs anyway, right? Then give Lingjian more zone refine some elixirs. Good boy, when I met you, I was refining elixirs for the Lingjian section. After a long run, my level of strength has changed, and I even solved the misunderstanding with General Yezhi. As a result, you asked me to refining elixirs again. Sun Suanhua laughed and scolded for a while, and then continued, okay, I'm just kidding you. I've made the elixir, and I'll give it to them, so don't worry. But having said that, taking care of Lingjian sect is not a problem. But there are 5 other Dan formation stages, I'm afraid I won't be able to suppress them. Zuyun knew that he was referring to Huo Maoang and the other 5 people. Now these 5 people were trapped in the mountain peak over there by Tang Liwen. Of those 5 people, one of them is an old acquaintance of mine, so it's not a big problem. As Zhu Yunzhen was speaking, his eyes suddenly lit up and he said, I thought of his good idea. Master, those 5 people are from the Fire Dragon section. They are all making weapons for alchemy, so they can help you. What? Sun Suanhua glared and said, I am only at the early stage of forming the pill. Are those 5 people at least in the middle stage or above? You really dare to think about it? It's okay, I'll find you 2 helpers. Zuyun smiled slightly and signaled Sun Suanhua to retreat. Sun Suanhua didn't know why, so he saw Zuyun take out a bag-shaped talisman. He frowned, the golden light on the talisman flickered, and suddenly 2 figures jumped out from it. Girl. Looking at Mengwei, Sun Suanhua couldn't help but be pleasantly surprised, but when he looked at it again, why was the other person also Mengwei? Suddenly, I was dumbfounded again. Grandpa, we meet again. Mengwei was stunned at first, but after seeing Zuyun next to him, he suddenly realized that Zuyun must have killed Zhong Jiangjao and freed him. Huchenghua, you. Beside him, Lian Nishang lowered his head, not daring to look directly at Zuyun. Fairy Lian, it's safe here. I think you already know Mengwei, the other one is my master. By the way, this is the Yunzhou spirit sword sect I told you about. Did you kill Zhong Jiangjao? Lian Nishang suddenly raised her head, but after looking at Zuyun, she lowered her head again, but this time, she made one more move, which was to tear off the heaven-changing talisman between her forehead. Huh! The talisman of changing heaven and earth turned into a ball of talisman light from his forehead. Sun Suanhua noticed it immediately and couldn't help but let out a soft cry. His attainments in talismans are not bad, but he has never seen such a mysterious talisman before. He can actually change into someone else's appearance, and even he can't tell the difference. What kind of talisman is this? Sun Suanhua couldn't help but ask. Zuyun slapped his forehead and said, Master, do you want to learn? What, you want me to worship you as my teacher? With outsiders around, Sun Suanhua was naturally concerned with saving face, so he deliberately asked arrogantly. Zuyun understood and said with a smile, Wei, you have a chat with the master, and I will take Fairy Lian out for a walk. After saying that, he turned around and left. Lian Nishang glanced at Mengwei and hurriedly followed. When he reached the door, Zuyun asked Lian Nishang to go out first, while he took out the Tao of Talisman from the ring, flicked it back, and threw it into Sun Suanhua's hand. Zuyun has memorized all the talismans in Tao of Talisman in his mind. As long as he has the materials, he can paint anytime he wants. After seeing Zuyun leave, Sun Suanhua asks Yang Mengwei, Girl, why are you alone? Where is Qiniang? Where is Aniao? Also, why are you, in the middle stage of forming the core? Mengwei thought for a moment and said, Grandpa, it's a long story. It just so happens that Zuyun doesn't know when he will come back, so I'll tell you slowly. Sun Suanhua nodded and led Mengwei up to the 3rd floor. Although he wanted to read Tao of Talisman at some time, he was more worried about the safety of one person and one bird. Huo Qinjue. Following Zuyun to a corner of the valley, Lian Nishang spoke softly, but was interrupted by Zuyun, You should call me Zuyun, there is nothing to do here. Lian Nishang raised her head suddenly and said, but what? Zuyun sighed and said, the Peeper realm is going to change, and the Fire Dragon sect will also be involved. So, I hope you can stay here. At least, Yunzhou is not so conspicuous. Change? What do you mean? I forgot to tell you that Aunt Tang left here not long ago. Why don't I keep her? At least I have to let you meet? It's because Aunt Tang didn't want to get involved, so she left. It can be said that she is on a different path from me. However, the agreement between us has been fulfilled. What is the matter? You actually want me to hide in Yunzhou? Peeper Realm is going to go to war with Yasha Realm. The key is that the Peeper Realm's self-proclaimed quiet actions have actually been known by Yasha Realm. And I went directly back to Yunzhou from Yasha Realm. What? Aren't we in the secret realm of the Heavenly Book? Lian Nishang and Mengwei were both trapped in the Fubao space and didn't know what happened outside. And if Mengwei hadn't saved her, I'm afraid she wouldn't wake up at this time. What I'm worried about is not the fight between Peeper Realm and Yasha Realm, but I'm afraid, the demon cultivators in Dongsheng Realm will take advantage of this to cause trouble. Then, the entire mortal world will be devastated. But at least, Lingjian sect will not be the first to bear the brunt. If such a thing really happens, Lingjian sect is not far from the sea, and we can take refuge on the sea. Then, what about you? Lian Nishang raised her head suddenly and looked at Zuyun and asked. In addition to looking for people, I have something very important to do. I will go to Peeper Realm first, and then to Yasha Realm. And I hope you can stay and help me take care of Lingjian sect, okay? Speaking of the latter part, Zuyun's voice became much softer, and even had a tone of request. Lian Nishang bit her lip, struggling for a long time, and then said, okay, I promise you. Great, Zuyun clapped his hands and said, in that case, I'll take you to see an old friend. Old friend? Lingjian sect, is there anyone I know? Lian Nishang was a little puzzled. Haha, you'll know when you get there. Don't say I keep you too busy then. Zuyun laughed and took Lian Nishang out of the valley, and then led the way into the air, and soon landed on the top of the mountain. But when he looked back, he found that Lian Nishang was hanging far behind him, and he couldn't help but feel a little strange. What's wrong, flying so slowly? Zuyun didn't know that Lian Nishang had been robbed of her Yuanyin by Xianxia, and her strength was greatly damaged. Although the realm on the surface was still there, both the body's control over spiritual power and the spiritual power that the golden elixir could store were greatly affected. Even though she was 2 small realms higher, she couldn't beat Mengwei at all. The only one who knew about this, Xianxia, was already dead. It's okay, I just thought the scenery here was nice, so I looked at it a few more times. Lian Nishang hurriedly found an excuse to prevaricate. Although Zuyun was curious, he didn't ask much, and took him around to an open space. This is the formation set up by the second master. Seeing the formation pattern suddenly flashing on the open space, Lian Nishang blurted out. Zuyun smiled and nodded, and took her into the formation. Fairy Lian. Have you also been captured and worked as a errand boy in the Spirit Sword sect? Huo Maoang exclaimed in disbelief.